So, I have just got done watching the Series 1 finale of Star Wars A Bad Batch titled Kamino Lost. So yeah, and now it is time to review it. So yeah, join me, Lukimus Prime, and my best friend, Oppo Ranscisis, as we review the episode together. So yeah, anyway, cue the intro. Alright guys, so as always I'm going to Oppo aka Alexander, share his thoughts on today's episode first. So, and if you're into it guys, please consider subscribing to his YouTube channel to give him some support. So I'll have a link down below in the description if you guys go subscribe to him and go support his channel. So yeah. Anyway, take it away, Oppo.
Hello there. This is not Oppo Ranscisis. It's not. It's not. Totally not. No, it is. You fell for that one, didn't you guys? Alright, so, this Bad Batch episode. It was okay, in my opinion. It was decent. It was very good when it came to character development. Each of the characters was every character was very well fleshed out. You know, every single character, you look at them, and they had a lot of important dialogue. I really liked what they did with AZ3 in this episode. I've been a big fan of AZ3 and Benjamin Diskin's performance as him ever since the Clone Wars, and I think this was a very nice, this was a very nice growth of his character, especially how he cared for Omega and so on. And Crosshair was fun. Echo, not much about Echo, but Tech I actually liked quite a bit in this episode, which I don't usually. At some parts I did. And Wrecker was fantastic. And Hunter wasn't as prominently featured as previously, but he was still very fun. But on plot, this episode was very low on plot. I mean, literally nothing happened. Nothing at all. The entire episode was the escape from Kamino, them trying to escape and get out of it. And while it was at times suspenseful, and it was scary, especially with the music, how dark it is, the lighting, the sound design was fantastic, how heavy all of the machinery felt, there was barely anything, and I very quickly grew bored of it. And I thought, surely something must happen, but nothing did. Nothing happened at all, frankly. And it was quite unfortunate, it was quite boring. It was suspenseful at first, but quickly grew boring. I really liked the creature though, and we barely saw it, which I liked because the scariest monsters are the ones we don't see too much of, especially when it comes to the sea, when it comes to the depths, all of that stuff. But it resembled my favorite Naboo creature, the Kala Clawfish, quite a bit, and I was very happy about that. Now what else is there for me to say, actually? The Omega scene where she rescued Crosshair was probably the most suspenseful in the whole thing. The music, maybe them climbing through the tubes and the cracking, but when she was trying to save Crosshair and using the bow and AZ being there, that was very cool, very intense, very well directed and edited and put together. But overall, there was really nothing there. And let's talk about the final scene, because apart from the character development, there was barely any plot. The final scene, I really like the planet. Obviously, I'm not sure what planet it is. It resembled, not too much of Scarif. I guess maybe the one from the Mandalorian. The one where Richard Brake's character was, with the radonium, all of that stuff. I think that planet resembled it. But Nala Se is being involved in some Imperial project, and I guarantee to you, and we will see this in a few years, I think, but I think they are trying to use these shows as an excuse to push the Exegol stuff, to push the Palpatine return stuff, to push the cloning, the Sith magic, all of that stuff from the sequel trilogy that made no sense. And I am sure that they're trying to use this as a platform to excuse the lack of development or explanation and the poor planning there. And I don't like that, because we already saw in The Mandalorian all of this stuff there where they are having the test tubes, the Snoke theme kind of played. You know, we have all of that stuff, and that and Grogu's blood and so on. That is I'm already skeptical about, but here it's yet another cloning thing and great plans for you. I think this is definitely setting up the Emperor's Return, which I hated in The Rise of Skywalker, and it's unfortunate because we're seeing more and more of Exegol. For instance, we saw it in the recent Darth Vader series, you know, the comic series. And I don't think it should be pushed into, especially into the original trilogy like that. But and the prequels, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully I'm not right, but I don't think this is the best thing they're doing here. Alright, so I'm gonna pass the torch to, Lukimus, and thank you for featuring me in these reviews. I'll be expecting my full payment now. No, I won't. Joke. But thank you very much, and have a good day.
Alright, so now it's up to me to review this episode. So yeah, great review as always, Oppo, and yeah. Now guys, so this episode called Kamino Lost. Now, to be honest, I was expecting a lot more from this episode, but I was kind of a bit disappointed, and I'll get to why. So the episode begins with Tipoca City sinking into the oceans of Kamino after it was destroyed by the Empire at the end of the previous episode, Return to Kamino. And a Bad Batch, along with Crosshair and the droid, AZ3, are trapped in the wreckage as the city is collapsing and sinking. Rampart, the Admiral, and the Empire then leave once the clones inform Rampart that the city is destroyed and sinking. And the Bad Batch are hoping to escape the city before it submerges by getting to the Marauder, which is still parked where they parked it in a previous episode. Now, during their attempt to escape, Omega and AZ3 and Crosshair get separated and trapped behind a door. Crosshair is trapped under some rubble, and they struggle to get him out as the water begins to rise. But luckily, Wrecker is able to breach through the doors because Tech says he can't open it with his, hacking systems due to, the drowning of the city. But Wrecker, is against that, and he just goes to a door and cuts it down. So yeah. And so Omega and AZ3 save Crosshair while they're trapped in the room flooding. And eventually, the wreckage they're trapped in settles at the bottom of the ocean floor of Kamino, pretty deep underwater. And after that, the group then make their way towards the tube, which of course would take them back to the ship, which is parked. But the problem is, the tube is blocked. So yeah, so that means that they can't, return via the tube, sadly, which would be the safest way, because we're avoiding the water. However, AZ suggests that he can guide them to the surface using lab capsules. So he says they should get inside the lab capsules and he'll guide them upwards. But the problem is, I noticed, and he said to himself that he's running out of power. So yeah, I kind of had a feeling that he'd be on his way out in this episode. So yeah. So as they're going upwards, Omega has trouble catching up to the rest of the Bad Batch due to, the wreckage, blocking her path. So it slows her down a bit. So AZ, dives back down to push her up. But sadly, as he pushes her up, he loses power and deactivates him and begins to, sink down below. So that was a very noble sacrifice that he did, very noble, ensuring that she'd live. But turns out he did it all for nothing because Omega instead ruined what he'd done for her by coming out of a capsule and diving down to save him. But so basically you're going to waste what he's done. You're basically making him die for nothing, aren't you, Omega? So it reminds me an awful lot of Rose preventing Finn from sacrificing himself in the Lazy Jedi. Reminds me a lot of that. Because AZ sacrificed himself for nothing because his attempt, to save her by pushing up was wasted because she just jumped out of the capsule and dived down to get him. And she nearly died as well because she nearly drowned. But luckily, Crosshair when he reaches to the top of the surface with the Bad Batch members, he uses some sort of harpoon gun to pull them both up. And I was wondering, how did he manage to see her underwater? Because the rest of the Bad Batch was saying they couldn't see her, so how was he able to see her? Because, and also, it was also really dark as well, so how was he able to see her? Yeah. But somehow he was able to spot them and pull them up using the harpoon gun. He shot them with the harpoon gun and pulled them up. And then, so after, you know, the reunion, you know, Omega is very pleased to be back, you know, and hugs Hunter. And yeah. And they have AZ3 with them as well, yeah. I think they're probably going to recharge him, you know, maybe. Off screen, I don't know. Now, when they get back to Marauder, it's daytime. It must have taken them quite some time to swim to, you know, to the ship. And when they get there, Crosshair decides to part ways with the rest of the Bad Batch and, you know, let them, you know, go their separate ways. So he does not join them, sadly. And Omega, you know, thanks him for saving her. And he then says, you know, at least we're even. So, yeah. But this might not be the last time we see him, because he'll probably show up in Series 2, maybe. But I'm not sure what role he'll play in the series, maybe, because he's left a Bad Batch now, and he's also, you know, turned on the Empire, you know, by killing his own elite squad. I don't know if he's just going to hold the crosshair, we'll have to find out. Now, after this week, we then get the final scene of the first season, where we get this, like, Imperial facility where a shuttle containing, you know, the clone commandos, they bring Nala C to the facility. So, yeah, so it's confirmed that she is alive, guys, and she's not being killed like how we can assume Lama Sue has, and of course how Tom Wee was in episode 9. And this Imperial officer wearing some sort of glasses. I don't know her name, guys. I have no clue who she is. She says that, you know, Nala C is needed for something, and, you know, for something the Empire's planning on doing. And, guys, I've got a very good feeling that it's going to be setting up the whole, you know, cloning of, you know, of the Snokes and the Palpatines from the sequel trilogy. Just like how in The Mandalorian Series 2 we see a glimpse of, like, some sort of cloning process happening under Moff Gideon's order, which he needed Grogu for. I've got a very good feeling that, you know, it's trying to set up the whole idea of, you know, cloning Snoke and Palpatine. It's like Disney are trying to make us like the fall of Skywalker by explaining how Palpatine came back. But to be honest, guys, even if they are trying to explain, you know, how Palpatine's alive and also like the whole cloning of Snoke thing, I will still to this day hate the fall of Skywalker and the rest of the sequel trilogy. I don't care what Disney are trying to do. Because let's be honest, guys, they had no plan from the start anyway, did they? Thanks to, you know, Daisy really confirming it, you know, what a hero she is, confirming that Disney had no plan with Palpatine. So, yeah. So I really hope that Series 2, you know, moves on from this idea and just focuses on the Bad Batch, and because it gets really annoying seeing that Disney are trying to explain their mistakes that they made in the sequel trilogy, really. And it's like trying to force us to watch the sequels and, like them. But I don't want to do it because I hate the sequels. I consider them, you know, not canon. So, guys, this was me reviewing episode 16 of the Bad Batch Series 1 titled Kamino Lost. So, yeah. This was an alright finale, but I feel like, you know, the whole being trapped in a flooding city dragged on a bit, really. It went a bit too far. And I wanted to be more action as well. There wasn't really much action, to be honest, in this episode, really. So I was a bit of a letdown, really, and unlike, you know, the finale of the Clone Wars, we did not get, like, a surprise cameo either by a familiar face, like, you know, no Palpatine or Darth Vader or anything like that. Unless you count that character who meets Arcee at the end as a cameo, maybe. But because Palpatine has been absent from the entire season, except for a premiere where he only appears in footage we've seen him from Revenge of the Sith, a scene we're very familiar with, that means that the main poster for the show is very misleading, because Palpatine appears very prominently on the poster, implying he might have a big role, but he didn't, because he only appears in the series premiere, delivering his Galactic Empire speech, and that's it. We don't see him ever again. So that was very disappointing, especially considering he appears in the trailer as well, guys, the very first trailer. So, if you were to ask me what my favourite episode of the show is, it would definitely have to be episode 8 called Reunion, because it featured the return of Cad Bane, my favourite Corey Burton Star Wars character. Best plot twist ever in the show, definitely a big surprise we didn't see coming. But in terms of the least favorite episode, that's a good question, because there are some episodes that I do dislike in this series. Didn't really like episode 1 how they retconned, you know, Kanan's origin story, Order 66. It was still a great episode nonetheless, Aftermath. Didn't like how in episode 2 called Cut and Run they made the clones in that city absolutely stupid because they didn't appear to recognise a Bad Batch or Cut. Which was absolutely stupid and absolutely dumb as so bad. Didn't like episode 3 how it was so dark, really, with the whole wiping out Saw Gerrera's camp. It was pretty brutal. Didn't like that. Did not like the episodes featuring Captain Hauser because... And guys, they haven't explained why Hauser still has personality and is, you know, hesitating to follow his orders despite Order 66. Like, so I really dislike Hauser. So I don't like the episodes where he's in at all, really. And this one, this episode I'm not really a big fan of because, you know, I didn't really like how the underwater scene dragged on for a bit, and also the whole cloning implying at the end with Nala say working for the Empire to do something. It's making me have a weird feeling they're trying to set up the sequels, and I don't want them to do that. Especially because in the new Darth Vader comments they included Exegol, which, you know, has really annoyed me. Because if Vader knew about Exegol, why didn't he tell Luke this? Why didn't he tell Luke that, you know, Exegol is, you know, a whole mode of the Sith, you know? Stupid, isn't it? Plot holes are everywhere. But all in all, though, guys, this is definitely a great season. I really enjoyed watching this ever since it came out on May the 4th. Really fun to watch. And yeah, been a great ride. And yeah, I can't wait for series 2. Excited, but yeah. Before then, of course, I've got Book of Boba Fett to watch. That'll be really fun. And Alexander will, of course, be returning to review it with me. So yeah, and shout out to you, Alexander, for, you know, taking part in this review series with me. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this review series with you. It's been absolutely wonderful. And yeah. So guys, this is me reviewing episode 16 of Bad Batch titled Kamino Lost. You know, drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to leave in the comments what you guys thought of today's episode of Bad Batch if you've seen it, what your thoughts are on it. Also, be sure to subscribe to Alexander like I told you to start the video. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for more videos coming in the future. And may the Force be with you always.